Hey there friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and with the recent buffs and new artifact perks in Act 2 of Episode Remnant for Destiny 2, some of my personal old favorites are once again back on the menu, viable in the current sandbox, and they feel fantastic. I am absolutely loving this. So if you want an off-meta Warlock build, that's not really the main focus of this video. I am going to show my build for sure, but I also want to talk about some old returning favorites that I am once again in love with. So it all starts with the Queenbreaker Linear Fusion Rifle. I don't think I've used this thing since Gambit many years ago when it was absolutely busted, and once again it's actually feeling really good with the current artifact perks. I'll explain why in a little bit, but that one is awesome. I'm also using the Stormtrance Super with Prismatic and the Crown of Tempest. Crown of Tempest was my favorite exotic on the Warlock for a bunch of seasons back in the day, but it's kind of fallen off a bit in favor of something like Getaway Artists or these other options. But once again, now it's really good and I'm excited to use it. So let me go over the combination that I'm using, how I'm building this out, and then you guys can kind of adjust to your own tastes. Now, the Crown of Tempest, if you didn't know, arc ability or jolt final blows restore arc abilities. So this is going to be really nice. And then it extends the duration of Stormtrance. That's very important because we did get the recent buff to Stormtrance that makes it regen a lot faster. You have it last a lot longer. Lots of good stuff like that. I'm using the Liturgy grenade launcher. This one is okay. I'm not a huge fan, but I wanted to test it out and give it a go, especially with Chill Clip helping out with this build. But you can swap it out for something like Lost Signal, which will be a lot easier. I just like running new, exciting stuff. Same thing with the Pyroelectric Propellant. This one, I don't have the jolting feedback, unfortunately. But if you do have a weapon with jolting feedback, like the Noxious Vetiver, this is probably going to be better for this build because, again, you're going to be jolting targets. That's going to help you out getting your Stormtrance. It's just, I wanted to use this auto rifle in the gameplay, and it feels fantastic. This Eddy Current and Onslaught combination is fantastic, but I would recommend jolting feedback in that slot. And then we have the Queenbreaker. So this fires a long-range precision arc bolt that chains the nearby targets and blinds them on hit. That's the important part because you're going to want some of the new artifact perks like the arc compounding, so arc sources deal increased damage to blind targets. You shoot your first shot, you blind them, and then you are going to deal additional damage for the rest of the time you're shooting it. This stacks on a lot of buffs, which is very nice, so I would recommend doing that. You can also throw in that Retinal Burn, so that way your rapid arc precision hits consume an armor charge to blind the target. Once again, that's huge. That's why you want to run an arc weapon in this slot on top of the Queenbreaker. As far as the abilities, I am running Stormtrance, obviously. This is huge. And then also I'm going to run Phoenix Dive, which is fantastic, especially for that cure. Then we've got Penumbral Blast. This is to freeze enemies, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. And then Storm Grenade. You can swamp this out if you want, but it gets a nice little bonus, especially with some of the prismatic fragments. Devour with Feed the Void, and then Hellion once you drop your Phoenix Dive are also very, very important here. Then we've got the Awakening. This is going to give you some elemental pickups, which is nice. Facet of Dominance, so your Arc Grenade jolt target, that's very, very nice as well. Once again, you want to jolt as many targets as possible. Grenade Final Blows cure you. When you have your elemental buff, your class's ability regens more quickly, which is also nice. And then Facet of Protection, but you can swap that one if you are not really worried about your survivability. As far as the mods go, you want something like Heavy Ammo Finder if you are struggling with your heavy ammo for Queenbreaker, because that's going to be something you're going to want to use a lot. Ashes to Assets is also very nice to get your super back just a little bit faster with grenade kills. Then you got some like Arc Loaders, helpful. Grenade Kickstart, very nice. Reserves of Arc Reserves are also really good, as well as damage resistance depending on the activity you're tackling. The Stasis Holster I would run if you're running Liturgy. The reload of that can be very, very annoying. Arc Weapon Surge is also very nice. for that extra damage. And then Distribution Reaper, Powerful Attraction, stuff like that is also pretty cool as well. You can swap those around to taste if you don't like any of them specifically. But as far as the build goes, it's pretty straightforward when you're first dropping into a new area. I pretty much always drop my Phoenix dive just because I get it back so quickly that I'm able to use a couple abilities, and then it feels like it's already on cooldown, which is nice. Pretty much saves me all the time when I am in danger. Get that cure and the heal, which is fantastic. From there, you're going to use your grenade launcher, swap to your auto rifle, SMG, whatever the case may be, kill a bunch of enemies with your abilities as well, and then once you see any heavier targets, that's where you're going to use the Queen Breaker. In the Contest of Elders activity, you don't really have to ration out your heavy ammo, in my opinion. As long as you're doing these side objectives, you are getting back a bunch of heavy because of the heavy ammo box, as well as you're able to rally the flag during the boss areas as well. And it never felt like I was really going to run out. That's why heavy ammo finder is really nice if you are running other activities, so you're running a Grandmaster or something of that nature. But if you're running the Contest of Elders, it's not really necessary because I feel like ammo is not a problem whatsoever in that activity. The best part about that activity, as well as something like Onslaught for this build, is that Stormtrance is going to chain to so many enemies. Even if you aren't doing the most damage to bosses with it, you are able to clear out all the adds that are nearby, and in such a confined space when you have a lot of enemies nearby, and they could be not killing you necessarily, but taking out your teammates potentially, that's where that super comes in handy a lot, because as it's chaining, you're just getting your super to last longer and you're able to do more damage. Again, you're not really going to melt a target with this, but it is a safer option, especially for clearing adds. Same thing with the Queen Breaker. You're not going to do as much burst damage with this as you might a grenade launcher, but it's a much safer option. It's fun to use. I really like the feel, the sound, everything with Queen Breaker, and overall I think it's a weapon that I wish was better outside of just using the new artifact. I want that to be an innate buff for this weapon, because it still doesn't feel like it's insane or anything like that. It's very good. You can build it in a way that feels fantastic, but it's not overpowered in any way. And so if they buff it to this level, I think that would actually make it viable going forward. Same thing for something like the Darcy or weapons like that. There are a lot of weapons that are forgotten in the current sandbox because they just don't do what a grenade launcher can do, especially this season, because the grenade launchers can weaken and then also do additional damage. Same thing when rockets are meta, and it just feels like there's not a lot of reason to use some of these other weapon types and old exotics that I personally really enjoy. And that's something that, whether it's through artifact perks or whether it's through buffs, anything like that, I do want more of them to feel usable, because for me, having as diverse a sandbox as possible is very important to allow players to kind of express themselves and not feel like you have to run a certain build, or else you're kind of throwing as everybody else melts the boss and you're tickling them, or you're not able to clear adds as quickly and everybody else is getting hundreds of kills in an activity and you're only getting 50 or something like that. So I do feel like that's where the variety, I think, needs to be increased even more, but I'm glad to have this step in the right direction. I'm glad roaming supers feel really good, and the Queen Breaker is finally back on the menu, which is exciting. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like the video, comment, subscribe as always. My name is Jopa. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.